floods sweeping across Libya and maiming, displacing, killing some 5,300 people in Libya. It's one of the issues that we are going to deal with, and I'm sure pretty much we may want to, I'm sure definitely we'll get into the arena of Muammar Gaddafi and what he could have done if he were in the position today. Leak tape saga Atachia says tape was doctored. Tape was doctored. Daily Guide newspaper. Elections 2024. EC to create 25 new constituencies. The inside, 25 new constituencies. I'm thinking there may be a partitioning of Commander Edina Egwafo Brem constituency. Yeah, KE is too big. We need to split it into two so we can have, you know, other members of parliament represent the good people of KE and several other constituencies across the country. So yeah, we shall see to that, and we will try and deal with all the issues here. I've been joined in the studios by Honorable Yunus Hussaini, you know, one of our political mentors, and somebody with depth of knowledge when it comes to governance and law. And I'm excited always. It's always a pleasure when I have him on the show, because we tend to drink from his fountain of knowledge in respect of politics, governance, and the likes. Good morning to you, Honorable.
Good morning, Kwame. How are you?
I'm well. You look, I love what you're wearing. I told you before we came on there. It's beautiful.
So my cloth has a history.
Right.
I bought it the same day Michael Jackson died.
Wow.
I was in Cameroon on an ACP EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly meeting.
Right.
And I just went into the market and I saw it and I bought the material, the fabric. Kept it until last week when I opened my bag and saw it still lying there. So I gave it to my wife, who decided to convert it into a shirt for me.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so very much.
Absolutely beautiful. And it's unique. I'm sure you're not going to find you know, this material in Ghana.
That was many years ago. I mean, even in Cameroon, I don't think you will find it.
Yeah. Well, so then, on the basis of that, let me say a special good morning to our people watching us from Cameroon, Liberia, Senegal, Gambia, Niger, Burkina Faso, Togo, Mali, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, South Africa, Gabon, Congo, and all the other African countries. Those of you who are watching us from Liberia, special good morning to you. Nigeria, special good morning going out to you. Let's kickstart the conversation with a story in relation to Libya and the floods killing about 5,300 people. I'm happy again because Honorable Yunus Hussaini has ever lived in Libya before, so he may want, I'm sure he understands the Libyan story, and he will share them with us here on the show. So, Honorable, you're on the floor.
Let me say good morning.
Maybe this morning you're Mr. Speaker.
I don't feel now, so let me say good morning to you, your cherished viewers. Indeed, I lived in Libya before. About 30 years ago, I was in Libya. I was in Zlitin. Zlitin is not that far from Derna. Derna was a thriving city. Was all the skyscrapers, roads were being developed by Muammar Gaddafi, and so Derna was a big place. Now, Derna also is near the port, the sea, and so it has rivers, if you want, or dams that have been constructed over there. And so when I heard of the catastrophe, the deluge that occurred in Libya, was not taken aback because of the number of casualties. Because the dams are somehow upstream and they flow into the sea. I mean, the water was blocked from flowing into the sea, the Mediterranean. And so the people living downstream have been swept away by the waters. And I mean, when dams burst their banks, the kinetic energy, or potential energy, which changes into kinetic energy, has a force that can sweep away everything. I mean, that's why we when water, our Kusumo Dam, clearly converts potential energy into kinetic energy, and we have electricity lighting up the whole country. And so if that water just flows out, the velocity of the water and the amount of damage it can leave in its wake is catastrophic. And so you hear the reports on the media, and a lot of people have lost their lives. This is uncharacteristic of Libya. Libya is a desert. Only a small area, Benghazi area, coming towards Sirte, those areas that have some vegetation. And so you will not expect that water of that magnitude can cause such a damage. But why is that damage recorded? It's clearly climate change conditions.
Right.
Because the waters that poured as a result of the changes in the weather have never been recorded in the history of Libya. And so the dams that were constructed based on statistics available to the engineers was that the dam could hold any water that came out over the period, because clearly they built the dam based on science and on statistics that they had. But this water came in torrents. The rain fell in torrents, and so the dams burst their banks, and it's a sad situation. Families have been wiped out. Entire families have been wiped out, especially those living downstream have been wiped out. And then someone was speaking this morning who lives in Benghazi, and said those who survived the deluge were those who were living upstream. Okay, so the water was flowing down, they were living upstream, so they were not in the path of the water. All those in the path of the water were swept away, and you could see bodies strewn on the streets like debris, and many of them are being given mass burials. I mean, where roads used to be, where houses used to be, the reports indicate that when you go there now, you will not think that a road ever existed there or a house ever was built there. And so we just painted this picture for people to understand that the situation has been catastrophic. Catastrophic. One man lost as many as 150 members of his family. And when I say family, I don't mean his immediate nuclear family. I mean his extended family, his brothers' wives, his aunties, his cousins, 150. And so I think at this point in time, what we can say is that the people of Libya, the people of Derna, need support. This is a time of immense distress and catastrophe. Many people need to be consoled. The compassionate nature of man compels us to intervene in situations of this nature. 3 countries have so far indicated their willingness to send humanitarian assistance to Libya, and that includes Turkey and the United Arab Emirates. But many more assistance will be needed for the people of Libya. I have some affinity towards Libya. When I was working there as a teacher, I traveled to many areas, and I know them. They are a good people. They are 11 people. They are an accommodating people. They share, and we have friends who clearly took us to their homes, and we slept with them, and Libyans. And so, and I was also very happy when the persons who were speaking on international networks were speaking English, because Ghana has contributed tremendously to the propagation of English language in Libya, because we went there to teach English when the Gaddafi decided that he would have nothing to do with the Americans and the British. So he fell on Ghana, and when we went there initially, we were thought of as being black British or American. They didn't, most people didn't know Ghana, and they will ask you, so you don't speak any other language apart from English, the way we used to rattle English. And so when those people were speaking on the international network, I said, wow, I mean, probably the project of Muammar Gaddafi to send as many as about 2,000 Ghanaians to Libya to teach English has paid off, because they are now communicating with the international community on what has happened. My deep sympathy and condolences go to the people of Derna, and particularly those who have lost family and friends. And for the African Union to also intervene, I mean, it is not, I mean, we cannot take it as a given that when disasters struck African countries, the countries that intervene are foreign countries, are not countries that are on the African continent. And then why do we have continental bodies for? So African Union and African countries must show love and support to another African country that has been struck by disaster. And Morocco has been hit by an earthquake. Many people have lost their lives and property by reason of that. You are yet to hear any African country intervene. I hear Egypt was in the process of sending support to them. So clearly, we as a people, we as a continent ought to show some love, support, empathy for not only the people of Derna and Libya, but on the people of Nouakchott in Morocco, who have been hit clearly by an earthquake.
Right, thank you. You're still watching Good Morning Africa, the news private segment here on Pan-African Television with me, Kwame Owusudan. So like I intimated before, we are streaming live on Facebook, facebook.com/Pan-African Television. I think you can share your views, your comments, and I'll be kind enough to read those messages here on the show. Well, just taking a seat is Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
We're discussing the Libyan floods, and Honorable Inus Afuseni kickstarted the conversation. You may want to share your views on that.
Well, I've listened to the discussions of the floods in Libya and other parts of Africa and the earthquake in Morocco and so on. And I get really surprised that the focus of the discussion is on how to send relief items to the affected people. I think we ought to be more interested in the causes of those disasters and how to prevent those disasters from occurring. We ought to be thinking about the capacity of African countries to deal with their own problems and so on. And the discussion has not focused on that. I am 100% convinced that if the Western countries, the NATO countries, had not invaded Libya, killed its leader, and bombed Libya to rust, even if the situation occurred, the capacity to deal with the problem would have been greater than it is today. One of the difficulties the Libyan people have in dealing with this natural disaster is that there's no central government. You know, and the resources which ought to be available to the Libyan people are no longer available to the Libyan people. And we've had stories of Western countries who send troops into Libya, actually stealing Libyan oil. And that simply means that a chunk of the revenue which should go to the Libyan people for resolving these problems is not available to them. And for a long time in our history, in fact, since 1969, when Gaddafi as a young officer took power, Libya was a reservoir of support for the rest of Africa. How come that today Libya is a recipient of support? Something has happened. And that is what we should avert our minds to. And if we're going to avert our minds to these interferences which limit our capacity as African countries to deal with our problems and so on, one of the things that we should focus attention on is the presence of foreign military establishments on the African soil. Why? Foreign military bases are not established on African soil to help increase the production of cocoa. Foreign military bases are not established on the African soil to help us maximize the output of exploitation of oil and gas and so on. foreign military bases are not factories that are producing chocolates and shoes and so on. They are here to intensify aggression from whatever source. They are here to protect Western interests and so on. And I think that's a major problem that faces the African continent, to which we should avert our minds. I'm so very happy that signs of hope are beginning to emerge in Niger and in Burkina Faso, and to some extent in Mali, you understand. This is not to say that I support military coup d'etats. No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that whatever we can do in order to take hold of our resources and exploit those resources for our benefit needs to be encouraged. Look, until last week, Niger was selling a unit of its uranium for how much? 50 or 80 cents. You understand? The new regime has increased it to $8. Look at the leap. Look at the leap. Cents to $80, 50 or 80 cents to $80. That's a significant increase in national revenue. And in fact, if Niger had been doing that over a long period of time, it would not be counted among the 5 most poverty-stricken countries in the world. So these are the things that we should avert our minds to. Look, today, let's say that Ghana has aid to give to Libya. We pack the aid, we go and give to Libya. How does that resolve the Libyan crisis, which incapacitates the Libyan administration? First of all, which does not make it possible to have a central government in Libya. And that's key to resolving all the problems of every country and so on. So I think we are punching in the wrong places, and that we need to punch in the right places. Africa is capable of managing its own affairs. Africans are not inferior to any other people anywhere in the world. We are not inferior to Europeans. We are not inferior to Asians. We are not inferior to Americans. We are human beings like all of them. We have the capacity to think and do things. And that is what we, as African people, need to insist upon. Forget these leaders that we have, these nitwit leaders, who cannot identify their own national interests, these leaders who have lost their way, these leaders, who are jumping into the skies on the prompting of their puppeteers, in London, in Washington, in France, and so on. These leaders are useless. These leaders are not going to solve any African problem. In fact, it is not their intention to solve African problems. And the earlier the African people came to that realization and began the people's democratic mobilization to install new regimes in Africa, which would choose different paths to development, which would buy into the dream of Padmore, of Du Bois, of Marconi, Nkrumah and others, to build a united Africa, whose foundation of development is and must be socialism. We are not going anywhere.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt, for that wonderful submission. So we've just dealt with the Libyan issue. Let's come to Ghana and deal with other issues here in Ghana. Leak tape saga, Tachia says tape was doctored, and all the other issues emanating from the parliamentary probe. Honorable, please.
Well, I have said that this leak tape saga, clearly, the invitation of the IGP to appear before the committee was preparing the grounds for a statement of this nature. We all woke up one morning to see a tape in circulation, and that tape appeared to involve some serious criminal conspiracies. Now, the most serious of the criminal conspiracy was that somebody on the tape was alleging that if he is made IGP, Inspector General of Police, he could subvert the manifest will of the people and assist the MPP to break the 8. That is, that is subversive. It's conspiratorial and ought to be condemned with the utmost vehemence in us. Because you see, as a people, the sovereignty of the country resides in us. And we determine who should lead us. We have not arrogated to anybody the power to force leaders on us. So when you hear a policeman say that, well, your current IGP is not part of the ruling government, is not an MPP sympathizer, and that being so, he will not assist you to break the 8, and that he knew or has reason to believe that if the IGP were changed and an MPP sympathizer was put in place, he knew the way to assist the MPP to break the 8. And I said, look. So it was so serious that it attracted the attention of the Speaker of Parliament. And the Speaker established an ad hoc committee pursuant to the standing orders of Parliament. The standing orders, the ad hoc committee was given a TOR, terms of reference. And there were 4. Establish the authenticity of the tape, investigate the veracity of the claims of conspiracy to remove the IGP, investigate any other matter on the audio, make recommendations for sanctions if any, where appropriate. That was all. So the main actors appear before the committee. COP Alex Mensah, the key architect, the person who spoke with such level of unprofessionalism that it beats the imagination of anybody how such a person could serve in the police service for 31 years. He also claims to be a lawyer. You fail to appreciate whether he knew exactly what he was saying when he said those words on the tape, and what is legal ramifications on the political development of this country, whether that was not a coup he was planning. His collaborators like Asari and others, Burunabo is a person, but that Burunabo's case even betrays the level of uselessness and hopeless incompetence of the president of this country in terms of his reliance on people of that caliber. Now, so when the people appeared, we were left in no doubt. We were left in no doubt that the tape was a product of the meeting that took place in Burunalu's office. We were left in no doubt. Certain portions of the tape were said to be doctored. But in general, the tape, and as I'm saying it again for our viewers and listeners, there is no controversy that the tape that was the subject matter of the investigation by the ad hoc committee was a product of the people who met to conspire against the IGP. Alex Mensah did not hide his ambitions when he said that he started lobbying for the IGP position since 2017. And that even though he's COP, there is history and evidence that COPs have made IGPs. So clearly, and that yes, they met. So the veracity of the Constitutorial Act was also established. Now, so I was taken aback when the chairman of the committee announced that they were inviting the IGP. And you can see that the IGP did not add anything to the investigation apart from lessening the severity of the matters that are passed before. So whether again it was an attempt, the IGP was used as a red herring to assuage the anger of the Ghanaian people, we're yet to see. But you are a committee. Chairman Atachia is a committee, a lawyer, a member of parliament, a former minister. You have been constituted into a committee and made a chairman. Your committee is a committee of parliament. It's a committee of parliament. When a committee is set up by parliament and does its work, it reports back to parliament. But look at what the Atachian has done. Honorable Atachian, senior lawyer, has made a definite or definitive pronouncement on the status of the tape. Which is that the tape is doctored. Without even submitting a report to parliament. So you have to ask yourself, is there a conspiracy to tarnish the reputation of the IGP? Is the conspiracy to perpetuate and enforce on the people of Ghana this terribly, hopelessly corrupt regime, extending beyond the four people who met, the three people who met Burunabo? Is there a bigger conspiracy, a global conspiracy? And the chairman of the committee is playing to that conspiracy. Is that what we are seeing? Because we also saw that while Parliament as an institution of state was investigating this matter through a committee, the police council decided to interdict these people. They said, who does that? Were they stampeding the committee? Why did they have to do that? Again, after having done that, they hastily withdrew. I think in less than 24 hours, they issued a letter again withdrawing the interdiction. So which people sat and took the decision to interdict them while the parliamentary committee was. So clearly, I for one have said, and I will say it again, that we need as a people to attach some level of seriousness in the matter, matters that were revealed on the tape. And that matter, particularly manipulating the police institution to subvert the will of the people, to determine who emerges as the leader of this country, which party wins the election 2024, it's a matter that we must all show interest. And that those people who met, those people, and I've seen a headline saying that Alex Mensah and who vindicated, I'm still looking for the paper, vindicated or what? That there was no such conspiracy? And so, clearly, Kodi, I think that we must all sit up and see what is happening as something that clearly is unacceptable, but that involves a lot of conspiracies. And if we don't sit up, particularly as NDC, we will be taken aback. But let me sound this caution that we have lived under the Nana Akufo-Addo's terrible government, useless government, for 7 years. We are prepared to continue to live under the MPP's maladministration and incompetence for another year. We will only accept elections that are free, fair, and that clearly manifest the will, the ultimate will of the people. There is no going back to 2020 where as many as 8 people lost their lives and where the hands of people were tied behind their backs and seats taken from them. It's a matter that we will stand up to and ensure that the proper thing is done. Even the Electoral Commission must beware, and we will come to it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Honorable Yusuf Sene. Mr. Proud, please.
Well, look, once again, I think that the newspapers have been very, very unfair to Honorable Atachia. Because nowhere has he said that the tapes were doctored. I'm holding in my hands the Daily Guide, which has a headline which says, IGP Konkonsa tape doctored, Atachia. And I'm reading the same newspaper and listen very carefully to the first paragraph. It says, the chairman of the Parliamentary Committee investigating the leaked audio tape of an alleged scheme to depose the Inspector General of Police, Samuel Atachia, has indicated that the tape that went viral and served as a basis for the Speaker's referral appears doctored. That's significant.
Even this one, it uses, it says appeared, truncated, edited, or doctored.
But whatever it is, he has not said that the tape was doctored.
Yeah.
He's saying that the tape appeared doctored. Now, I've read the report very carefully, and down there is also another paragraph which is very significant. And this is in quotation marks. It says, there is going to be a continuous, the English is problematic, but it says there is going to be a continuous of proceedings for 5 days, which means that they are going to continue to sit for 5 days. By which time, we will probably, holding all the factors constant, conclude the proceedings and be able to write our report. It means that at this stage, everything is fluid. Conclusions cannot be made. You understand? This is the same Atachia. So I think that we have been very unfair to Mr. Atachia by claiming that he has said that the tape is doctored. He hasn't said any such thing. But even if we limit his comments to the fact that the tape appeared doctored, there's a problem. And the problem is simply this. The committee is not Atachia. And Atachia is not the committee. In arriving at conclusions by proceedings, the veracity of the tape and so on, the committee has to meet and agree. The committee hasn't met. Proceedings are not over. It does not lie in the mouth of Honorable Atachia to be making such pronouncements, even if he says that it appears doctored. You understand? Then there's the problem also of interpretation. If you put out a story saying that the tape is doctored or appeared doctored, what you're actually saying is that what is attributed to those who are captured on the tape may not be true. Is that the case? So those who are saying that the tape appears doctored, all that they are saying is that only parts of the tape were released. Not that what is attributed to those on the tape is not their voice. They didn't say that. But that only a version of the tape was made public. Is that doctored? Is that doctored? I mean, sometimes, we allow common sense to flee us. And we talk by heart. We are talk as if we are in the comforts of our homes and so on. So there is no indication that the tape is doctored. Nothing whatsoever. What is clear, reading all the reports, is that the version of the tape which came into the public domain is not the full tape. But we have those who participated in that meeting admitting that what came into the public domain is their voices and that it has not changed. You understand? Now, are we saying that what came into the public domain is not serious enough? It is serious. What we have, doctored or not, is confirmed as the voices of the participants in the meeting who were plotting to have the Inspector General of Police changed because he would not play ball when it comes to fiddling with election processes and so on. In other language, that amounted to a conspiracy to subvert the 1992 Constitution and to make sure that the will of the people of Ghana does not prevail. That is subversion of the highest order. That is an attempt to subvert the 1992 Constitution. That is an attempt, a conspiracy, to ensure that when you go for elections and you cut your ballots, it has no meaning. So this rigmarole, you understand? This verbal acrobatics and so on, does not in any way shift us from the original goal of the Speaker of Parliament to get to the bottom of the matter. And what is the bottom of the matter? Is it true that people conspired to subvert the 1992 Constitution? Is it true that people thought by simply replacing the Inspector General of Police, electing outcomes can be changed? This is the bottom of the matter. So all this rigmarole, all this dancing around, so it's absolutely useless, completely useless. Now yesterday, I made comments on the committee's work, which actually prompted the chairman of the committee to send a text message, And my comment was simply that it does appear that there's a certain deviation from the original purpose of establishing this committee. This committee was not established to determine whether or not the IGP is competent or incompetent. That is not the issue. This committee was not established to find out whether or not promotions in the police service have been fair or not fair. That is not the purpose of this committee at all. You understand? So, and then one very silly thing which has also come up, absolutely silly, the allegation that the Inspector General of Police talks to the former president regularly. What rubbish! I mean, incredible rubbish. If for nothing at all, the former president is under police protection. The police outrider who leads him wherever he goes is still under the command of the IGP. His protection unit comes from the police service. His house is protected by the police service and so on. What prevents the police service, which is providing security for the former president, to talk to the former president, to determine his needs, and to find out whether indeed what the police is doing for him is pleasing and acceptable to him? What is wrong with that? The police is in charge of a huge aspect of national security. And you think the police can carry out their job without occasionally making reference to the former president and his party? It's impossible. Currently, there is dialogue between the police and the so-called minority leadership in Parliament over a proposed demonstration. How can the police do their work without talking to the opposition? And indeed, those who made that allegation, in the final analysis, show who they are and how they think. And indeed, I'm so happy that they are not in charge of the police service. Because they're saying that if they were in charge of the police service, a huge segment of the Ghanaian population would be completely ignored. Their views would not matter, and so on. That's frightening. Completely frightening. You understand? And it appears that the committee is shifting in that direction. Examining things which have no relevance, examining things which have no bearing on its mandate, examining things which distract from the gravamen. Is that how you lawyers say it? The gravamen of the issues before us. And I'm worried about that. Now, yesterday, my own very good friend, Honorable Kandapa, appeared before the committee. This is the Daily Guide report. And this is in their interview with Atachi. He says, on the in-camera sitting, Mr. Atachi said the first person the commission called upon was the Minister for National Security, Albert Kandapa. The reason why we called him, and this is in quotation, is that Superintendent Asari had confessed they had appeared before the National Intelligence Bureau, NIB. So we will not do a shoddy job by not calling the minister who has superintendence over that bureau. So he came to say, indeed, and in fact, the NIB called Superintendent Asari and the rest of them in relation to the same leak tape. And they have done a lot of work on it, he explained. My goodness, what is happening? On such an important matter, national security gets the facts, or what is purported to be the facts. They have investigated it. The report is under wraps. Compelling Parliament to start the same investigation. Why? Why could government or the relevant institutions not act on the findings of the National Investigations Bureau in order to save us all the trouble? If they did thorough investigations, if they were minded by the national interest and they have made findings, why didn't government act on those findings? In any case, when the tape first became public, why didn't government begin to take action? Because the subversion of the Constitution is a serious matter. Rigging elections is a serious matter. And yet in the initial stages, we had members of government saying that, oh, nothing is wrong. You know, we cannot interdict the people and so on. Master, the first thing that ought to have happened is the immediate interdiction of those who went into that conspiratorial meeting, followed by thorough investigations, which I believe the National Investigations Bureau has done. And then on the basis of that, government ought to take action in order to assure the population that it has no intention of rigging elections. If that had been done, the Parliamentary Committee would have become totally unnecessary. The Parliamentary Committee came about because these logical, prudent, administrative, and investigative processes were not ignited by government. That's why we are where we are. And I'm worried. Because these raise many questions. Why was government hedging from the very beginning? Why didn't government do what it ought to do so that all of us could have some peace of mind? If it had been something else, like Frimpong Boateng's letter to the president, an alleged involvement in Galamsey and so on, government would have issued a statement. They would have referred the matter to the office of the special prosecutor and so on. Compare the allegations made against Professor Frimpong Boateng to the conspiracy to subvert the constitution, which is more weighty. Hey, Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana. Hey, Massa. Now, I don't know what to think of this country of ours. Where are we heading to? Banana Republic? I don't know.
It appears you want to make it.
No, I just wanted to say that, I mean, maybe the choice of words. Because, like my brother has said, I will listen to the proceedings. And at any point in time, there was an admission. Yes. At any point in time. And it was open. I even do not subscribe to the view that they should have met them in camera. And also, because in a democracy, you need to carry people along. Yeah, this is a tape recording of a conspiratorial meeting that they had. Conspiratorial meeting that some people had. At best, the tape is redacted. It was not doctored. Certain parts not significant or which are meant not to be for public consumption have been cut. But obviously, like he said, the national security, but Mr. Kwesi Pratt, you should know our government. Unless it is prompted to act, or it has no fallback position, can do nothing, then it pretends to act. You should know our government. So, yes, national security is part of this government. The minister is an appointee of the president. They had opportunity to investigate the leak tape. The matter was of national, the media played the tape before Parliament set up. So at the time that they were playing it up, the national security minister, even when somebody sent a social media message on cars that person was fished out and arrested. Clearly. So they would have done absolutely nothing about this thing. Absolutely nothing. Especially when Alex Mensah was professing or is professing to be an MPP member. And I understand that he's been prepared to take over from Joe Wise in the choir. So clearly they would have done nothing. But for me, my abhorrence and disgust is simply that the committee appears to give themselves more powers, like Mr. Kwesi Pratt has said. They are now investigating matters that do not flow from their terms of reference. And I said it, and I've said it, and I'll say it again. What they are doing presently is diluting the severity of the conspiracy as captured on the tape.
Yeah, you know, there are many aspects to this investigation, so-called, and it is interesting. So many aspects, and it is interesting. You know, today I challenge everybody, anybody watching us, listening to us, to just Google declassified documents on the overthrow of the Kwame Nkrumah government by the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America. It's there. It's on the net, declassified documents, declassified. But certain portions have been blotted. Does that invalidate the declassified, files? It doesn't.
Or is it doctored?
Does that mean that it is doctored? Does that mean that the CIA did not overthrow Nkrumah? It doesn't. Today, there are declassified documents of MI5.
Yeah.
If you read the classified documents of MI5, certain portions have been blocked. Does that invalidate it? Whoever played the leak tape wanted to play relevant sections. The other sides of the tape, whatever they are talking about, if they are talking about their appetite for kinky and so on, how does it concern the people of Ghana? Why should that be broadcast? Airtime is expensive. Why should that be broadcast? So you broadcast only the relevant portions. And the broadcast of relevant portions does not invalidate claims in the relevant portions. You understand?
This way you're
and then you get to the point where you have newspapers actually publishing banner headlines, so and so vindicated. Vindicated? How vindicated?
Vindicated.
I mean, look, let's stop this childishness, this childish play.
Vindicated.
And focus on the essential issues. Democracy is meaningless if the will of the people does not prevail. So our whole so-called democracy, this bourgeois democratic arrangement, if we allowed the conspirators on the tape to have their way, would have been overthrown. It would amount to a coup d'etat and so on. That's the gravamen of the case. Let's focus attention on that and stop this.
Well, thank you for staying with us so far. Let me read a few messages and then we'll look at some other issues here. Ken Williams says, please do us a favor by avoiding distorted publications by tabloid newspapers so as to deter them from spreading fake news. Abdul Majid Al-Hassan says, good morning to you, KOD, watching from Atlanta, USA. Say hello to Al-Haji and Mr. Kwesi. Abdul Razak Mahama says, good morning, KOD. Say a good morning to Bless for the development, Bless Alomaso, the development chief of Dagbuari. Yes, for us. We, the people of what Honorable said, are proud of him and Pan-African Television. KOD, the committee must stay focused. Okay, watching live from Seattle, USA. Nabia Damba says, good morning to you, KOD. Watching you live from Paris, France. I'm sad to be a Ghanaian today, seriously. This one also says, it's from Ugu Hyacinth. Good morning, KOD, and good morning, my people of Ghana. Same Zameku says, Kwame, why is it that anything the EC does, the MPP are satisfied with? My worry is that the NDC as a political party may laugh from the wrong side of their mouth in 2024 if care is not taken. The President Akufo-Addo is a dangerous man, well, in your estimation, on this planet. And okay, right. Nick Street says, good morning, KOD. In fact, the MPP-led Akufo-Addo administration is tired of his governance, so he's busy calling, okay, quite dangerous. I won't read it. Joe Eskin says, good morning to you, KOD. I'm watching you live inside Lagos, Nigeria. Keep it up, guys. Deception all over by this incompetent Akufo-Addo and Bawumia government. Cocoa farmers, Junior Manihunu. Good morning to you, Uncle Kwesi. Pan-African TV is live. Oh, this one is an essay. I can't read it. Right. So let's look at the other issue, which has got to do with the creation of 25 new constituencies by the EC. Honorable.
Well, so Bosman Asari has said that there's the likelihood that the EC will create new constituencies, and he puts the number at 5. He says the only reason why they are not in Parliament is because Parliament is on recess. Went on recess in July, might come back in October, and when they will lead the CI. He's tried to explain away why they have committed such egregious offense against the people of the Guam constituency. That is Stantrofi, Apafo, Lulubi, and Likwe, for not giving them a representation in Parliament. And that offense has been an unpardonable offense. As a democracy, you cannot have in your country, and you cannot say you are practicing democracy, and the state institution charged with the responsibility of managing elections into Parliament cannot claim to be working effectively and efficiently if they exclude a segment of the people intentionally from being represented in Parliament. It's sad. I mean, it's sad, and they see that normal. I mean, you find the president go to bar association and is actually interested in lambasting and castigating his predecessors and then opponents, political opponents, than talking about this egregious human rights violation. And you find the bar association not calling on the Electoral Commission to do the proper thing. Where on earth will you tolerate a situation that will exclude intentionally, deliberately, willfully the non-representation of a people in Parliament? Where? And then because we are a docile people, we've accepted it as a norm and as something to be expected, and we are prepared to live with it. And now that has emboldened the Electoral Commission. I told them before when I was in Parliament that at any time at all, you see the Electoral Commission behave as if they are a law unto themselves. Any time. But they forget the important caveats to the independence of the Electoral Commission, except by the Constitution and by any other law. So the Constitution directs limits. So the Electoral Commission's mandate is limited by the Constitution. In the Constitution, Article 1 says that sovereignty resides in us. And any other law. So the Electoral Commission also brings laws in the form of inferior legislation, CIs, regulations. And those regulations limit the exercise of power of the Electoral Commission. They themselves bring those regulations, and those regulations limit. For instance, they brought a regulation, CI 91, which says that in establishing a registration center, that registration center must be nearer or could be turned into a polling station. Why? Because the people do not get lost as to where to cast their votes when it is time to vote. Now, the Electoral Commission, again, by Article 42 of the Constitution, is mandated to compile a register of all Ghanaians pursuant to Article 45, of all Ghanaians who are 18 years and above, and of sound mind. Okay? So they are Ghanaians, 18 years and above, and of sound mind, and are entitled. So it's an entitlement. It's a right you cannot take away from them. That's why it is an entitlement to participate in public elections and referenda. I mean, Jane Mensah is a lawyer. I mean, he should understand this provision. Every Ghanaian, so there's no exception to the rule. There's no exception. Every Ghanaian, then they set the benchmarks, the criteria of 80 years and above and of sound mind. The only time you can exclude a Ghanaian is when the Ghanaian is not 18 years. The fact that or if that person is 18 years but not of sound mind, then you can exclude. So that's a limitation. So the Electoral Commission, my brother Kosopralis want to say that, well, they shouldn't think that they can do anything. The Electoral Commission cannot go out of their way to say that because we are Electoral Commission, we think that people of 15 years old are mature enough to participate in elections. So we, the Electoral Commission, have decided that this year we are going to register 15-year-old. So that's a limitation on the power of the Electoral Commission. Now, we have said, and you see that many people are beginning to say, in this limited registration exercise, that you see, because it's a civic responsibility, that doesn't attract any payment. That is very voluntary. You must not use administrative procedures to frustrate the enjoyment of a right created in Article 42. You must not. In fact, even by the regulations of the Electoral Commission, the Electoral Commission should be enabling citizens to enjoy that right. Okay, so they must put in place facilities, structures, and procedures that will enhance the enjoyment of that, but not frustrate the enjoyment of the rights contained in Article 42. And the rights contained in Article 42 is so important in the democracy, and particularly in a multi-party democracy like ours. In fact, in some democracies, it's an offense not to vote. In some democracies, unless you have compelling reasons why you cannot vote. Ours is voluntary. And because it's voluntary, it forces an invidious responsibility on the Electoral Commission to ensure that nothing is done to frustrate that enjoyment. So when you find, about 6 months ago, I was in Pandai constituency, and I was taken aback to learn that the Pandai constituency stretches up to areas around Salga. Yes. And that to be able to come to Pandai, which is the district capital, where the Electoral Commission, they have to cross a river.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes up to 4 hours on the river to be able to cross. And that, so depending on the boats, and that when they cross, they must be lucky to reach Pandai early if there is a car or a vehicle readily available. Now, never mind the danger that you are exposing the people to, because you are asking them to come and register at the district office and go back home. Never mind the inconvenience that you are exposing them to. The Electoral Commission thinks that because they are Electoral Commission, they can do what pleases them. They can do, I mean, you don't get people into public office to do all the lazy things. And that is the problem we have in Ghana. People occupy public positions hoping that they can do mediocre things. Mediocre. They're not willing to work hard. Their hard work is spending money. That's what they mean by hard work. They're spending money. And then they laud themselves as working hard. So we have said, as a political party, that look, there's practice, there's convention, that in the past, the Electoral Commission has made voting accessible to all newly persons who have come of age and who can get onto the registers, accessible by making the registration take place at the electoral offices, electoral areas. And for the purposes of our listeners, an electoral area is coterminous to an area that elects an assembly person. So there's a presumption that people living around the electoral area will know each other. That's why we say that you elect your assemblyman. And so, again, it goes to enhance the integrity of the registration exercise. Because if you are within the electoral area and somebody comes to present himself for registration, you are able to tell whether that person is from that area or not. Today we have been told, and yesterday I saw a video of somewhere in Bimbala where a political party established a center and was giving out money to persons who have come of age. I'm sure the police and the special prosecutor has watched the video. If he has not, I can send the video to them. Treated. Treated. It's an offense under the laws of this country. So, for me, I have said that, and when we went to court, we decided that, well, the exercise of the power of the Electoral Commission to limit registration to the district officers is not only unlawful, but it's unconstitutional, as it will operate to frustrate and deprive the people of this country who have turned 18 from exercising their right to get onto the register under Article 42. And then, so we have invoked the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to interpret Article 42 and the role of the Electoral Commission in Article 45E, together with all the relevant CIs, to hold their act as unlawful and unconstitutional. When we went to court, we also coupled the application to invoke the original jurisdiction of the court with an injunction. Okay, you know what has happened? You know the exercise is ending on the 2nd of October.
Yes.
So what the courts have done through the Chief Justice, because we were told that the Chief Justice was not available, so they couldn't give us a return date. Now, when the Chief Justice was at a bar conference in Cape Coast, she communicated with the registrar to give us on 17th October. If this is not ridiculous, tell me what is. 17th October, the exercise is over.
Right. Let me go for this quick commercial break. On my return, we'll listen to Mr. Pratt on this issue. Stay with us. Don't move a muscle.
Hello. What are you doing Tuesday to Friday, 7:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. every day? You should be watching The Couch. I'll tell you why. On Tuesdays, we talk social issues, lifestyle, health, all those everyday issues that affect us in the big ways. Late Wednesdays are for book reviews. Thursdays are for the hard talk, those socio-economic, policy-oriented, political questions that demand for the tough questions to be asked. And personality profiling Fridays, when we get to know the stories behind the winning personalities we love. Inspirational story from inspirational personalities. Hey, listen, you really cannot miss The Couch with me, Amma Pratt. Still, the only TV show with a hat.
Trasaco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasaco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasaco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call
Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching Pan-African Television. This is Good Morning Africa, the news preview segment here on Pan-African Television with me, Kwame Usudan. So, before the break, we were discussing the EC's decision to create 25 new constituencies. But of course, Honorable Inusa Fuseni discussed the issues from different perspectives. Now we turn our attention to Mr. Pratt to hear from him on this.
Well, when I heard the announcement, I was completely shocked, you know. Ghana has a population of about 31 million people. And already, we have 275 MPs. Why? Why? The whole population of Ghana will fit into one city, you know, somewhere else. And we have 275 members of parliament. All of them take car loans. All of them will take ex gratia. All of them will have one policeman attached to them and so on. Why? What have we done wrong? Why is this being imposed upon us? In a period of about 23 years or so, the numbers of our members of parliament has increased from 140 to 275, and we are still increasing. If we continue at this rate, I can predict that in the next 20 years, we probably have 1,000 members of parliament. Why? Why? And we complain that we are broke. We complain that there are not enough resources to finance education, and so on. And we are just increasing the numbers as if it's some fun game. Massa.
No, you have been invited into the conversation.
Can there be any justification for this? There can be no economic justification. There can be no political justification. There can be no social justification. And indeed, you watch very closely. This will lead inevitably to allegations of gerrymandering.
Yeah.
Inevitably lead there. You understand? But you see, who is to blame? Our political parties do not appear to be interested in safeguarding our election processes. Honorable, deny if I'm lying, if I'm wrong. We are involved in this voter registration exercise with all the controversies it has thrown up, with the matter before the Supreme Court and so on. Kwame, go and check today. All the key leaders of the National Democratic Congress are outside the country. All, none of them is in the country today. That's how serious they take us. That's how serious they take the electoral processes. None of them is in the country as we speak. I'm embarrassed. Completely embarrassed. So why would the Electoral Commission not do as it pleases? Why would the courts not take a certain position with regards to the elections? This crucial voter registration exercise, with all the difficulties that it presents, with all the contestations and so on, none of the top leadership of the NDC is in Ghana today. They've all gone abroad. Travel happy guys. I have nothing more to say.
Well, it could be coincidence. I'm not aware. I'm not aware of all the topmost leaders, because last week I was with some of them in a meeting.
I said today, this morning.
Oh, maybe they left yesterday.
But you know these facts.
Yeah, but I really was in a meeting with them, some of them last week.
No, I'm talking about today.
So I am not aware of that. And in any case, our machinery works whether the leaders are there or not, because they set in place processes that we all follow. I mean, as I'm speaking to you, I'm on my way to Tamale. I mean, I had to stay behind to do a program because of prior commitment. But I'm going to be part of the process to get people to come out and register. Because our elections and the veracity, the integrity, reputation of the elections depends on people registering. Your vote is actually your power. And so, and if we want to demonstrate our abhorrence or rejection of the MPP in the 2024 elections, it must start with the registration exercise.
And your leaders have no role to play in that.
Well, everybody's a leader is all right, so we are all going.
But you know the leaders is very...
So why do you elect them? If they have no role to play, why do you
They have a role. They have made everything clear, abundantly clear to all of us on the rules to play.
This is the time to go to the United States of America.
I don't know of that. Maybe equally important assignment, but like I said, last week I was with some of them. So I am yet to cross-check to see whether a majority of them...
What is the value of traveling to India at this particular time?
I don't know of India.
What do you know? What do you know?
It appears you're in a witness box. Well, if there's nothing more to add, we may want to bring the show to a closure.
Yeah.
A big thank you to you, Honorable Inosa Husseini, for your time, and thank you for committing to Pan-African television. And thank you to you, Mr. Pratt. We appreciate your presence. Thank you for watching today's edition of Good Morning Africa. My name is Kwame Owusudan, so I'll see you tomorrow. But I think Bless will be back with an interview. Stay with us. Don't move a muscle.